Yeah, I didn't write. I know I have them, but I didn't write anything down. I'm gonna have to remember. I almost did take.
Good morning, Samoa, and welcome back to Doctor Who, Season 15, Episode 1, The Robot Revolution, which personally I was very disappointed to find out was not about a robot that just, span around and inspired a bunch of dance moves and was, worshipped or something. They must have did some last-minute rewrites, because that's what I thought it was about. But anyway, I am once again joined by my brother, Caden.
Hello.
And yes, today we are talking about the robot revolution. Don't worry, we've abandoned David Tennant at the end of the universe, but we'll get back to him in July or something to finish off the watch-alongs. But for now, new companion. I almost said new doctor. That's not true. New companion, new season. I want to say new era. That's not true. There's really not actually that much new. Come to think of it. Let's see. There we go. That's how I get rid of the thumbnail. So Caden, few things actually to catch up. First off, we've got a hard limit today of 1 o'clock, which we're not going to reach. There's only one stream that went that long, and that was Space Babies and Devil's Cord. So, so that's why this stream is early. But we can't ramble for 3 hours at the top. That being said, it's been a while. It's a new season. So as we like to do, I'd like just to introduce us for people. We probably did this for Joy to the World, but
it's been a minute.
I am the Doctor Who fan of the room. I've seen all the classics. I know every rhyme. Breakfast Club, Pretty and Pink. I don't know every line, apparently. No, all the classics, the moderns, the big finishes, all that good stuff. And Caden here, who are you representing in these reviews?
Well, I, at the start of these streams, was nothing more than a filthy casual. If
disgusting,
that's honestly.
Filthy disgusting. Yeah.
Maybe on a good day, I might even be having considered less. So these days, I think I'm working my way up maybe into the novice fan category.
You asked a deep question about Gallifrey at some point a while
ago. I did, yeah. I'm learning the ropes.
Where are we? We're about to finish season 3 with Tennant, but you've seen past that back in the day.
Yeah, I've seen somewhere in a Matt Smith. I stopped watching around Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, a very legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I dropped off, and so now we're going through rewatching. I remember some episodes. I'm forgetting more and more the deeper we get.
And real quick to address, Caden's audio is a little weird today. He didn't tell me he would be 3,000 miles away from where I expected, so he's just on his phone today. We might try and sort something out better next week, but it's not too bad, I don't think. Yeah, well, I've been meaning to talk about that. I actually was hoping to talk about it 2 weeks ago, but we haven't had watch-along streams where I've done something, right? Where...
Yes.
You may have heard I've watched all the shows. I've listened to the big finishes. I went to eBay and I bought the Time Worm series, the first 4 of the Virgin New Adventure books that they made after Classic Who was canceled to kind of continue the series. And I've bought those. I've got the next 3 on the way. And so I've done it. I've expanded my repertoire. I'm enjoying them, especially given how mediocre the first book is. Apparently, I'm actually quite enjoying it. And well, Caden, I've been meaning to, because I actually started looking into this after we were talking about how you're evolving as a fan.
That's
and
true.
I've brought this up with the committee, and I all agree that because of this development, we're gonna have to demote you back to a filthy, disgusting casual.
Yeah.
Just by comparison, I'm glad you agree. I'm glad we can be civil about this.
Yeah, because I mean, you're shining so much brighter now. I didn't get any darker, but
I thought I was a true fan before, but now I'm really. And like maybe one day you'll get promoted again, and I don't know, I could buy a comic or something. But
I'll find a good question to ask.
For now, yeah, you're still representative of the filthy, disgusting casual.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Well, let's get in. Now that you've had your day ruined, I've been waiting to make that joke for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I messaged you last night. I watched this episode last night, and also literally I just finished before the stream, like 7 minutes ago, rewatching it. I messaged you because we don't like to discuss these beforehand. I disagree with the Doctor Who community.
Yeah.
That was my initial thought. So I disagree. Let's put that in there. Let's just get into it. Robot Revolution. What do you think? Let's give me your opening thoughts.
I think I've been trying to, with this mysterious text too, figure out what the community thinks, because I'm not really involved in any Doctor Who online other than this, so I don't hear the whispers on the wind.
I'm sorry. Speaking of those whispers on the wind, I don't want to interrupt you. This is a spoiler-free review. I might reference like older episodes, so if you care about that. But like anything, I still try and keep some mystery for Caden. Of course, we're doing the watch-alongs. If I know like next to nothing about this series, I have heard my whispers on the wind. I did forget the major leaks were out, and think I know who the major villain is this season. Whoops. But no, I know barely some things, but if we ever are going to discuss something coming up, we often do that at the end, and we're very clear. Like, if you don't want any of those leaks, I don't know them, mostly, and if I ever talk about something where it's going to be broadcast, you'll have time to go away. But yes, that's how these go. Caden, continue. You don't know the whispers on the wind.
I'm guessing the community really likes this episode, or they're at least positive over the halfway mark. This feels like something that they might eat up, at least in the casual to mid-range. But then I have the assumption that some of the hardcores might have an issue with it because there's some things going on.
The hardcores are kind of the ones I have a pulse on. You know, it's Reddit, r/Doctor Who, r/Gallifrey. Especially Gallifrey is going to be a little more of the hardcore ones. But no, you say it. What were your opinions? You didn't actually give yours.
I think it was a stronger start than Space Babies.
Ooh, I disagree. But go on.
Started. I liked it more as it went on. I kind of just felt like I was watching goofier Cybermen for a while. I thought the premise of this, basically just the whole premise, was maybe kind
ridiculous.
Of a little goofy.
Oh, it is.
Although it's set up to kind of, there's still, the story in the explanation isn't even really given in this episode, and it looks like it's going to be retouched on, with the opportunity to have a lot more depth to it.
Yeah. We'll touch on the plot. I think most of it's covered, but sort of the kickoff of getting the diploma is later. Someone pointed out near the end, actually I got to be careful because there's a next time on here. There you go. The diploma, framed and ripped up, weirdly enough, is in, it's in this shot at the end. But yeah, interesting that I probably think it was better as it went on. I don't think it's
I agree.
a huge gap for me. But I actually disagree with you that I was telling Alex, as nonsensical as the premise is, I actually kind of like the idea of someone bought a star and now they own it and they like be kidnapped to own the star. I think that's fun, and you could probably justify it. I mean, this one seems to have largely justified it. We'll get into the bootstrap paradox nature in a bit. But if you don't know, when you buy a star, what you're doing is you're paying a private company to basically write the name you purchased in a database with like whatever the star's actual name is. It's meaningless. I'm sorry if you ever bought a star. They don't even like coordinate with each other. They could have multiple stars named after whatever. So it's like absurd that aliens would know that their star's been bought. But it's just the right level of like, I can get behind this, you know? If we set the stage that this is what the episode's about, I think I could get behind that, absolutely. And I think it was fun. The premise. I'm not sure... It's interesting you should mention Discount Cybermen, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to take a broad view here. I think my issue is I really talked with my wife about this one afterwards. My issue with this episode is that I feel it should have been essentially a comedy. It's about you bought a star, or like your boyfriend bought a star, and now you've been kidnapped by aliens and have to rule it, right? It should have been that. Or a legitimate like criticism and analysis of the controlling significant other. And I feel it kind of tried to be both, and in doing so did neither well. There's tonal dissonance, and it's interesting. One of the comments I read on the Reddit reviews was someone saying they felt this would have really worked as a Cybermen story. Because the Cybermen's whole deal is like, it's for survival, but it's making everyone the same. You know, that uniformity in a very authoritarian nature, which is, I'll admit, not identical, but you could draw parallels between the controlling significant other. Maybe trying to make like all the women he dates the same, or, you know, trying to fit to some ideal of perfection. And I feel like there really is a darker version of this story that works great. And there's the lighter version that works great. And this one, the scene I've paused on here, right? We'll touch on Belinda in a second. But right now, she has had these big robots, tall, intimidating things, crash into her house. Like, they're destroying it. They're threatening her at gunpoint, kidnapping her. He has just shot the cat in this scene.
Yeah.
Which my wife did not like. We actually watched a classic episode after this, and there was a dog at the beginning. She says, if this dog gets shot, like, we're getting a divorce or something. But her reaction is like, this is strange. Stop breaking things. My landlord's a dick. It's not my cat. You know, it's like, it was kind of played for like, oh no, I've got a better example. You know the scene where the doctor blacks out a hospital?
Yeah, kills like
a
12 people in life
multi-story
support, probably.
hospital, presumably in London, with an ambulance outside that we see someone being delivered in intensive care. You want to know the sound effect they play when the hospital blacks out? A heart monitor flatline. That scene's played for laughs. There's just, but then we're supposed to care about like Sasha of 55 dying, and that's dead serious. It just feel like the episode didn't know what it wanted to be, and that's hurt it. I don't think it was bad. I'll say that it was not a bad episode. With Space Babies, we gave that a 5 out of 5 originally because it's the start of the season and we wanted room. We're like, Space Babies feels like a middle. You know, if you're better, you're good. If you're worse, you're bad. I feel like this one needs to be like just below that middle. It's the best below the 50% mark for me.
I would say the exact same thing in the opposite direction. I'd give it a 6.
All right. So, broad overview. You can let me know if you ever want to transition to a specific scene. But what did it for you then?
Well, I was wondering at some point towards the end, how much of, in a sense, like a polished turd I was looking at, because everything from the sets to the CGI to the costumes was really good in my opinion. I loved visually what was happening. It felt really alive. And then it just gets down to some of the plot and a lot of what they were saying was like really almost corny and on the nose, like when they first introduced the evil artificial intelligence,
the AI generator.
There was an audible sigh out of me. Just felt a little, and then it turned out to be Al. That was painful.
My reaction to the AI generator was, oh, Russell, because if you didn't notice, it's a power generator, which is an AI intelligence. How long's he been sitting on that one? He's like, I can't think of an AI episode I want to write. So I'm going to put it in. It very much had that feel. I actually I found that funny. I wish it was in an episode that was actually about AI. Or like I said, the comical or satirical version of this episode that committed to that. I would have loved that. When it was also Al, I'm like, Russell, you can't push 2 puns. It's like they're both fine. I feel like he's done it before where it's like the name was covered, but it's like, okay, why do the robots think it's AI? Because they can interface with his brain. Once he's defeated, like in this scene, the robots say, like, now that we're free from the Al Bundy generator or whatever. What was his name? There was a lot of nitpicks, don't get me wrong. There was a lot of nitpicks like that. But there were still a lot of them, and because for me there wasn't that thing that like kicked the episode up a notch, those nitpicks did kind of add up, you know? That's what's making it a 4, not a 5 for me. Broadly speaking. I also actually, the theme of this episode for me was non-commitment. You like the style, and I broadly do. I like it in theory. I'd love to get a picture of it, but the polish bot is like a perfect execution of the style. There he is. It's that retro futurism. It's got the grills, the weird curves, the colors, the exposed joints. Everything's perfect about polish bot aesthetically. There he is. Look at that. That's retro futurism.
Beautiful.
The old lighting. You know, he is kind of a ripoff of Gadget from Waters of Mars, but, you know, Russell stealing his own ideas is... no. That's harsh, but there's a lot of... This reminds me of something you wrote earlier. But other things I feel I didn't quite commit. I love the outside. The rocket, great. This whole city. I'm not sure about these purple beams, but everything else I love. The UFOs. The robots, though, are a little generic. They kind of feel like I'm designed to sell a toy.
I agree with that.
Any other show, I would say that just outright. This is designed to write a toy. BBC being the BBC and how, like, the financing works, that was still probably on the mind. But, like, when Doctor Who sells a toy, that money doesn't go to Doctor Who, it goes to the BBC. And so it's not quite the same. Or maybe Russell T Davies has some merchandising deal I don't know about. But, like, these guns, it's not quite there. It's got the exposed vacuum tubes, but still kind of future-y. I don't know. There were elements that didn't quite commit to me for the retrofuturism. And you got these old-looking computers in the Undercity. But still... I don't know. It's a very superficial complaint. And I like, generally, this era has had a lot of retrofuturism I like. The Time Hotel, arguably, was a great example. I loved that set.
Time Hotel.
But even the TARDIS itself is pretty retro future. But this one just kind of fits broadly into my theming of this episode of non-commitment. I'm actually very curious what IMDb thought, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the not fans review it. Because I think if I had watched this episode as my first, I don't think I would have kept watching the show.
Interesting.
Do you want to talk about Belinda? Because that's my biggest thing.
Belinda, I don't know how I feel about Belinda.
I'll open with the fan base is very excited for Belinda. And this was actually my biggest surprise. Belinda, they love her. And specifically, a lot of people are citing the dynamic between Belinda and the Doctor.
Yeah.
And loving what she's bringing to the table. And part of me thinks the fandom is so desperate for someone who's not a young modern day girl that this is they might be extrapolating. I'll defend my position in a sec, but I want to say the fan bases, because I think what the fan base is seeing is, she's very clearly ready to challenge the Doctor. I don't think we've really had someone even vaguely like this since Donna, who, I guess to be fair, was the 60th anniversary, but bit different. She's an unwilling adventurer, which we haven't had since Turlo Perry, 5th, 6th Doctor. Last time we had a non-human proper companion, Grumble Grumble. Arguably, we haven't really had someone like her since Victoria in the 2nd Doctor. We actually had another companion who just wanted to go home. That was Tegan, 5th Doctor. But these are all so long ago that this is fresh. If it works, if we can really get that, I think it will be nice. I'd like an alien, please, God. But I can't trust it enough. The last time we had an alien who was a major companion was the 5th Doctor. The first third of Doctors. We had Adam, who you've probably forgotten. Jack is in 2 episodes. He is in a lot fewer episodes than you think. He's technically in 3, but he's not really in Boomtown. And then he shows up in a few later episodes. And then Nardole, who, let's be honest, I don't even know if he's alien or not. He might just be a human from the future. He could have been written as a human with unit-level knowledge. But Belinda, what struck me is, and this really hurt the episode, I told Alex I might be more forgiving if this was not the introduction to Belinda, is exactly what I said here. She never... that's not fair. She often, especially at the start, didn't react how I felt a human would react. She was not grounded. Right? Is it the whole being kidnapped by robots and she's making jokes about the landlord? She has the bit where she's like, tell my parents, I'm being kidnapped by robots. She's like, oh God, my parents. There's the element there of a real person. But she's just this is a bad frame. She's just unfazed. We'll get to you, Miss Flood. And I almost get the vibe of, if she doesn't care about being kidnapped by robots, why do I? Why should I? When she's in here, look, I'm sorry, Disney is bad at getting frames. It's not necessarily unreasonable to be doing any of these individual things, being like, no, go get Alan. He bought this. But the fact that there's nothing that's oh my God, I'm a homeowner. I know, it's shocking. But, when my water cooler was leaking, I reacted more strongly to this. Because I'm how much this is going to cost? If we ruined these support beams, my water had been leaking for 2 months or something, but we didn't notice because it was under the stairs, and there were a lot of boxes absorbing that moisture. It was bad. But, and then we get to the point, so I'm supposed to care about Sasha 55, who we'd just met. And I just felt like Belinda was never really a real person. And I'm hoping, this was just a bad opener. Especially the other writers might be able to make her work. I guess that's really what it is, make her work. I was genuinely shocked, too, seeing it from Russell T. Davies. Like, a non-grounded companion.
Yeah.
And I think what he's doing, right, having read a lot of his interviews, and been really, like, in touch, because he's big behind the scenes, like being the hype guy for Doctor Who. What I think he's doing is looking at Marvel, and essentially trying to write that, because they're very quippy. You know, a lot of shows are doing that. That's what's popular.
Yeah.
But not kind of getting the when Marvel does it bad, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the vibe I got. So people were praising the dynamic. I'm like, I told my wife, I don't think I know what the dynamic is between Belinda and the Doctor at this point. On my rewatch, I think it is a little clearer, you know, but I feel like this is someone who I'm never going to care when they're in danger at the moment, because they don't seem to. And when she like kind of betrays everyone and she's like, you know, it is my fault. I feel like I don't understand why she, as a character, believes any of this is her fault. Because I feel objectively it's not.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I understand why Mandy blames Belinda. You know, he's irrational. He just lost someone he cared about, you know, yada, yada. But why does Belinda believe that any of this is her fault? Like, she seems to be like, people are dying. I've got to stop it. Which, fair. She's like a nurse. That makes sense. But she kind of looks at the people around here. Like, someone had a dislocated shoulder. I swear they were cleaning up this hospital, like, implying there was no work. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's the people outside that are, like, being bombed we should worry about. I don't know. I just feel like I could never get a good sense of her as a person rather than, like, a quippy character.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I don't per se... I'm okay if a character necessarily has those flaws, so long as they're consistent within the character. And if they just, like...
By flaws, do you mean the quippy, or, like...
Well, like, maybe you're getting captured by aliens and you just don't really care. Because there's probably...
yeah. I mean, that could be
8 million people, like, on Earth.
I wouldn't want that as my companion, but I want that as, like, one of two. You could even do something, like a really jaded companion, like maybe even someone with depression or something like that, who is like, what this show really needs, what this would be great for, like, the state of the world now is a companion who is that, like, essentially wanting to believe in the good of the world, but is so jaded by, like, everything going on, and is like, we're all doomed. The kind of person who would see, like, a meteor has a 1% chance of Earth and being like, oh, come on, please, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's a very real and I think damaging outlook. And then someone who can go through on the journey with the Doctor and learn to, like, hope again and see the good in the universe.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I don't think that's I almost said Monday. That's Belinda. I think Belinda's just quipping because Marvel, essentially.
Yeah, I think I like the dynamic. I am interested in unwilling companion. I like that sort of idea.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm holding out for character consistency, and maybe there will be an arc of change and growth. But if it is drastic, that would be like, it would be disappointing if she just, like, continues to bounce around sort of fluidly with those moments of sincerity and then, like, lack.
This was one episode written by Russell T. Davies. There's 4 other writers this season, so even if Russell T. Davies always makes this mistake, which I'm not sure about that, there's 4 other people who hopefully, like, won't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out, though, in terms of growth, I don't know if you noticed, but we had the Doctor go through Monday's... I don't know why I'm doing this. Belinda's entire life. And just like with Ruby, what we've accomplished is that we no longer need to form a bond between the Doctor and the companion because it's already happened.
Yeah.
Hi, Alex.
I came to speak on the world's okayest episode of Doctor Who.
All right, let's put a pin in this discussion real quick. Alex, come here.
It's a 4. It wanted to tell many
Bit lower. There you go. You want this line? There.
It's a 4. It wanted to tell too many messages but didn't commit to any of them.
My wife and I are in a lot strong agreement on this one, weirdly.
That's
unusual.
Doesn't happen so often.
Looking at last year's rankings. Yeah, that's unusual. It happens, but...
Rude.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, it's a 4. It's the world's okayest episode of Doctor Who.
You'll notice, though, with this kind of the Doctor is now like, oh, we have the deepest bond ever, because, like, he probably does. That's not two-way, is that...
Yeah, it's one way.
Belinda never did. But I think the difference is Ruby and the Doctor were friends.
Yeah.
Whereas Belinda's whole thing is kind of not wanting to be here and rightfully thinking the Doctor's a creep.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we didn't get it both ways. Or we did. Is you might have noticed she knows what the TARDIS is called, despite having never been told.
I did, yeah.
I think it's a deleted scene. If you look up the deleted scenes from season 1, that tracks. Also, she's surprised it's bigger on the inside, which would be weird if she also saw the Doctor's life. I think she'd call him out on more if she saw the Doctor's life. But with the 60th specials, Russell T Davies did the exact same thing with By Generation, where he gave like conflicting accounts of what actually happened in the narrative. So who knows? I think it was one way though. But I am kind of disappointed in that. I don't know if it's so much the show's fault because we do only have 8 episodes. They probably could only get her to commit to one season because that's all that had actually been commissioned. I don't know how the behind the scenes work, so maybe they have to do it in one. Like, we might not get her next season. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we do. I don't know. But yeah. I'm wary. This was not a strong contender. This is not a strong showing for the companion. But maybe we'll get good stuff. But I do like what the dynamic seems to be on paper.
I agree with that.
It is pretty fresh. It was like Donna was the last time we had anything close. I could not care less about the why can't they get home mystery, much like Ruby Sunday, except this time we really can't guess the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know about you at this point. I've never been so invested in the mystery box. And especially after like how Ruby's went, I'm probably not going to try and get invested in the mystery box. But I also don't care. I don't think Doctor Who needs the mystery box. Like, so I'm fine with that. That can go live on its own.
Yeah.
Any other broad thing, or should we just kind of start going scene by scene?
I think we can scene by scene it.
Yep, I know I have other things I want to talk about. I will say Al felt definitely way more controlling on a second view, knowing the things. I think I also missed the line at first. He's like, that star is 4 quadrillion miles away. I know girls aren't good at math, but part of that might just be it was all the first like minute where I might still be getting settled on the sofa and stuff and like adjusting the volume. But they did a good job characterizing Alan, I feel.
I'll actually say, from the very first frame, docked down a point because they're still using the same font. And
you don't like the
I
font?
hate it. I don't like the font. I think they can do so much better. It just doesn't have the right... It's so...
basic?
Modern in a bad way, you know. It gives me clothing brand energy. It gives me H&M. It doesn't give me Doctor Who adventure and fun. It's just
Doctor Who, despite looking incredibly retrofuturistic, is trying to be modern. I'm sorry to say, Caden. I don't That is like the most extreme of a nitpick, that the font is corporate.
I'm a very fonty man, and I don't love the Doctor Who font that they've been going with over these last 2 seasons.
Do you like that the kerneling seems to be inconsistent between the letters? Am I just imagining this? Look at that R and the S, then the G and the O. The A and the R are far apart.
See, I'm converting you to my side. It's bad fonts. It's not good.
Look, I nitpick, but that's a bit far even for me.
It's a personal preference.
No,
it's a strong one.
I think Russell T Davies has broadly been doing a very good job modernizing. I said this is until he took over, I did not believe it was possible to make a show that looked high budget, top quality, without sacrificing the story. I think around the time of the 11th Doctor, not just for Doctor Who, but the real worlds, like 2010s, something changed where visual effects got good enough, you could now start just seeing the director's hand taking you out of the story. And that goalpost is probably moving a bit as visuals get better. But I always say that I don't remember what episode it was. There's like an 11th Doctor episode that opens with a shot over like a wheat field or sunflower field or something. It might be Vincent and the Doctor. I think it's something else. That just feels, I can feel the director spending like 2 hours setting up that shot and like getting the lighting right and going through post-production. It just takes me out of it. But not here. When I see like the Goblin ship, the Time Hotel, I'm like, Russell, you actually did it. You made like a good-looking show that doesn't... And I shouldn't be surprised. This is the guy who intentionally did not get Doctor Who into HD. Because it was so big, the BBC offered, he's like, no. Once we go to HD, the visuals become too important. I want us to stay in standard definition, otherwise we're going to hurt the stories. He seems to have believed exactly what I believed.
Yeah.
And that's why it's not HD till like 3 episodes before Tennant leaves. True story, and it's so weird when you get HD David Tennant. But yeah, broadly, but also it's becoming modern in some of the bad ways, like the quipping, the short seasons, which is of course well beyond the purview of like a showrunner. I think it's good and bad. Broadly.
Yeah, give and take.
The bad episodes of this era, though, are the worst parts of modern. I read a review of this episode on Reddit where someone said they believe with their new era, Russell T Davies is trying to be a lot more like Moffat than his original run. I agree. But this episode in particular was the worst aspects of Russell T Davies and Moffat. I'm like, yes. But like it wasn't that bad, but it's like it's none of Russell's like grounded character work, but it is a lot of his like just kind of general weirdness, I think. It had Moffat's timey-wimey stuff, but in the way where it's like you think you're clever, but without actually really getting all the details fitting. It's like one of his more convoluted timey-wimeys that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And I think I broadly agree with that. But it does sound a lot harsher than, like, the episode actually is. But, I don't know. Russell is just a weird dude at this point, I think. Look, hey, remember that big fuss we made for the charity special about how Davros is a disabled character? And so... they made him out of a wheelchair, right? Because of the genuinely problematic trend of, like, making your villain physically disfigured to show how, like, damaged and evil they are. You can probably figure it out where I'm... This man doesn't have legs.
That's very true.
You know how it's like, hey, we can't have a Sonic that we have to have a Sonic that looks weird, because... the Doctor uses like a gun, and I don't want kids, going out playing guns, which I actually agree with. But the Doctor still wields it like a gun against like Maestro and stuff. It's like, Russell, please. Please, Russell. But who knows? Okay. Is it just me, or is this a PNG of a TARDIS?
Yeah, I was thinking that too when I was watching. It looks like a miniature. It's like not there. It was really weird. I'm glad that wasn't just me too.
I've Googled TARDIS PNG, and it doesn't seem to be. It might be. Yeah, I know the audience can't see this. It might be this one mirrored. It's not one of the first results. It might just be something weird with the VFX. But the reason I ask is for the 13th Doctor's like announcement video, it genuinely was the second Google image result for TARDIS PNG. The first was 13th Doctor TARDIS, so it probably wasn't there then. Which is funny.
That's really funny.
Yeah, blacking out a hospital. We talked about that. Did I mention?
Well, of which
the sound effect they play is the heartbeat monitor flatline. I think I said that on stream. Yeah.
The Doctor. Once they made it to the planet, abysmal, off the walls, horrible. But everything on Earth, fantastic costume selection for this episode.
Oh.
I loved both of his outfits. The kilt/skirt with this shirt, and then with the matching sort of vest in the TARDIS. Mwah, absolutely beautiful. I loved it.
I don't think I know the vet. You mean like the vest dress thing?
Yeah, a little suit jacket.
Yeah. My wife actually turned to me and said after I made him do the thumbnail, is like, why didn't you make me draw you in that? And my thing is always the same. It's because take Ncuti Gatwa out of that and it doesn't look like the Doctor. It just looks like an outfit.
Yeah, that is true.
I think I'm not going to spend too long on this because it's been talked on a lot. I think the Doctor needs a strong silhouette in order to change outfits. The fourth Doctor is actually my go-to because he's got that famously long scarf. You'd be surprised how often he doesn't wear it. I specifically highlight his outfit in Talons of Wing Chiang, which is kind of Sherlock Holmes inspired, which in my head, it's got a scarf because it's, fourth Doctor. It does not. It actually, here, I'll put this one on stream, but it fits the fourth Doctor's silhouette so well. Talons of Wing Chiang. It fits the Doctor's silhouette so well that it feels like he's wearing a scarf.
Yeah.
But he's not. And I feel like I don't know how they do it. But the Peter Capaldi as well, later on in his run, starts wearing literally like sweatshirts and t-shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
But you will not notice that it isn't a suit because it just fits the silhouette so well, and that's what I wish they did with Ncuti Gatwa. But if they actually just had this, if he just wears a lot of kilts, it's fine. I love his thick brown jacket look. That's very Doctor. I'm fine with his like orange shirt one. That works. But yeah, I don't know. You could have him wear different outfits, but have it be like the costumes when he's traveling, like in the Beatles episode or something.
Yeah.
That's what I would prefer, but I'm not gonna make a huge fuss. You can always stop me, by the way, if you have more. But Miss Flood, that's not Miss Flood. Look at what we have to deal with, right? There's the image we're gonna get.
It's the two
robots. And look, it's a different one. It's all blown out. Miss Flood
there she is.
Has moved, apparently. No longer Ruby's neighbor. I was actually joking with Alex. I think I would have liked this episode better if Belinda was Ruby's neighbor 2 doors down. It was just the other. If you committed to the camp of the plot line, you bought a star, I would 10 out of 10. I liked Space Babies. I said, right, and I'll defend this. I said before, I think Space Babies was better. Most of the Doctor Who Reddit reviews said better than Space Babies. Because the fandom hates Space Babies for some reason. No, Space Babies, right? You may think it's a childish plot line. That sucks.
Yeah.
But it's a functional childish plot line, right? It has a story it wants to tell about the boogeymen and the babies. Babies, I've said before, the Space Babies is an episode where babies are in space, and that's a place they don't belong, and that's funny. If you don't get like inherent satisfaction from babies in a place they don't belong, it's a bad episode. But if that can be enough for you, then it is fine. Right? It's the same thing with dinosaurs on a spaceship. Dinosaurs on a spaceship, they don't belong there. What's up? You know?
That is true.
Maybe you can say Space Babies kind of had an abortion thing tacked onto it.
Yeah.
But I even don't mind that. Like, it was one line. We didn't dwell. I think it's good to get people to think about it. I know abortion is like a non-issue in the UK. It's kind of mostly a US thing. But yeah, this one couldn't really figure out what it wanted to be. It didn't just have the like controlling thing tacked on at the end. It feels like that's what this episode wants to be about, but it's not.
Yeah,
you know,
it's from the path.
It's a very good episode that just wasn't what we got.
Yeah.
So Space Babies was better. Sue me. The longer we do these reviews, the more pro Space Babies I'm gonna become.
You want justice.
I liked Space Babies, okay? What's wrong with that? I know I gave it a 5, but I would probably have ranked it high. I'm gonna rewatch it one day.
I'm not judging.
And we're gonna be like, this was bad.
It sucks.
I mean, yeah, just don't look at the baby's mouths. But Eric made that episode.
Yeah, he did.
He did. I loved Eric. I love that deadpan. I love you, Ruby.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same vibes as like the Miss Belinda Chandraites and like all that. So I loved that was the level I want. Just everything, the Miss Belinda Chandra bombs and the Miss Belinda Chandra bots. It was like repeated just enough to be like funny every time, and it didn't overstay its welcome. If Russell's gonna commit to this like camp stuff, then like commit.
Yeah,
that's what I want. I think we talked about these things. Oh, there you go. This outfit.
Yeah, beauty.
Very nice. It's just take him out of it. Put me in that, and you don't look like I'm dressed as a doctor. You know, that's my
I agree. I love all the costumes. Just if there was the one foundational costume, and then we have adventure costume.
To be fair, if you put me in Peter Capaldi's sweatshirt outfit, I also don't look like I'm the doctor. But like if you gave me a wig, I might. I'm glad I paused on this frame though, because I forgot. Right now, I am pretty sure the doctor is fiddling with the coffee machine. Which bothers me. You don't necessarily have to make all the buttons mean something. They often do, and I appreciate that. But when you point to something and say this is the coffee machine, it should be the coffee machine.
Well, coffee machines can serve multiple purposes.
He's checking like the time differential of why the TARDIS broke down.
Maybe the time differential mechanism is very good for grinding coffee beans.
I know. I thought maybe it's the clock on the coffee machine, you know. But shout outs to the jukebox, absolutely proving, for one, how devoid of life this TARDIS is, and for two, how much just some decoration would make this the best TARDIS we've ever seen.
Yeah.
We are never going to get it. I know everyone hopes.
No.
We are never. Look at those floors. Look at those walls. We are never going to get it. But, that jukebox is so good. Anything about this introduction scene? We talked about I love the visuals. Miss Belinda Chandraville or whatever. I will say you bought the star, not like the planet and the robots and the yada yada yada, but... You know,
I don't think so. Seeing Sasha has just reminded me about the thoughts I have about her death, but I guess that's coming up. There. Yeah.
So Polish.
Polish brought made me think about K9. That made me happy.
That's come up on the Reddit before. I'd love a K9. I feel like one of the movie concepts, the Eighth Doctor movie, was it had the Doctor with a bulldog. A French bulldog, British bulldog, I can't remember, that he rescued from like the London Blitz named Winston. And I've heard people critique this, like, come on, this is not Doctor Who. And I'm like, to be fair, the rest of the movie is like hot garbage, that concept. But I'm down with the Doctor having a pet bulldog named Winston that they rescued from the Blitz. You know
Yeah,
what?
I am totally down with that. That
I'm
sounds
down
amazing.
with that. That's wonderful. I love K9, of course. Polish did kind of overstay his welcome a bit. You know, Polish did get a bit annoying for me.
Yeah.
Cool. My wife
I thought
disagreed.
I actually thought the first scene I saw Polish bot in, he was kind of ridiculous. But then as it went on, I was like, this little guy's not that bad.
Yeah, if he was in one scene, I would have liked him. But he said Polish too much. And then I realized he was just like a copy of like Gadget from Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
And I was like, after the episode, I'm like, Polish. What? I'm like, Gadget. Who says gadget? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I was trying to go through this. It took me a while to get there. All right. Yeah, and even here again with Belinda, she was kind of like, I just felt she wasn't reacting like a person. If we do characterize her as someone who's like fed up with the world, which I kind of got. I got the vibes of from her opening Earth scenes. I don't know if it's just like not being grounded or being fed up. Maybe this will work better for me. But I don't know. You'd have to be like the most angsty teen goth to like to keep that up, I feel, when you've been kidnapped by robots and sent to Miss Belinda Chandra, you know?
Yeah.
I love this chair though. I'm practical and actually I hate this chair. I take it back. I both love and hate this chair. This is like the kind of chair our mom would have, because our mom was very form over function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked in this scene that we're looking at right now, the every ninth word was kind of nice, but then anytime something gets spelled out for you in such a clear manner, like the doctor says it, but then they cut all the words together. It feels like
I didn't need that. I could remember.
Yeah, it's like I understand that not everyone will clock it, and at the same time, it's like they don't trust the audience enough to clock it, which is still fair, 1,000%. It just always rubs me the wrong way.
This era of Doctor Who is specifically targeting the under 35s. It's the very valuable demographic. But more specifically, I think especially how Russell T Davies is interpreting that is the younger audience and children. We could go into the long side tangent of is Doctor Who a kid's show, to which I do a affirm no. But this era of Doctor Who specifically is absolutely probably the most on the kids show spectrum we've gotten of like kids show to family show. It's definitely the most. This is probably why you have episodes like Space Babies. And I think even recognizing as just a family show, when like is a 4-year-old gonna necessarily keep all 9 letters in their mind? Like I'm not super nitpicky. If this was like an adult show, I'd be like, I didn't need that. But I'm like, you know what? If we're in the editing booth, right, and we're trying to decide if we keep this scene, I'd be like, you know what? Let's just play it safe. Let's just have it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather it be there and not than like need to be there. So
yeah.
But I do kind of agree. It was useful for the AI generator. That one I needed. But did you count the 9 words? Did you ever count?
No.
They didn't do it right. Multiple times. There's one instance where they do Miss Belinda Chandra as 3 words instead of 1, even though in the context and on the diploma it is clearly written as 1 word. That's a nitpick. But I swear there were a lot of 8s in the every 9th word. And, you know, I'm doing it on the fly. I didn't sit down. Maybe I'm wrong. But there were a lot. It also doesn't matter when it's not plot relevant. It's also the 9th word, but like individually. Belinda's single word responses don't affect the count. But I guess it gets reset, because when she does start counting, then it is like the 9th word. The AI generator's 9th words matter and are like his true thoughts. But he is really fitting into the sentences that were already being crafted, which is interesting. The robots can take commands and give sentences that are more than 9 words. It's on an 8-cycle clock, even though the dial has 9 cycles, and that's not really how an 8-cycle clock works. There is no 9th cycle. This is the kind of thing what I was saying earlier. It's clever in the sense that if you don't actually consider the details, yes. At first, I was going to complain, like, okay, I know software bugs can be weird. I'm a software engineer. This is one of the cases of, like, it's my domain, and I can now know when you're wrong. Mm. But that's a weird bug. But they did try with, like, okay, it's an 8-cycle system. I was like, you know what? You tried. So that one, I did appreciate that. I kind of do find it funny how stereotypically evil this AI generator is.
Yeah, comically.
Again, both the camp and serious version I would have loved. Come to think of it, did they add the head later? Because we see him get installed, and this was, like, already there.
I don't think the head's in the shot.
I don't know.
He's getting installed.
When does he get installed? It was before this. There we go. Yeah, it's not in frame. Yeah. Probably because it wouldn't be there, but they can't remove it. We'll get to you. By the way, I've heard the Mistflood rumors, and I don't like them. But we'll get into that. Do you want to use this time to talk about the plot as I desperately try and find a shot of this diploma? Screw it, that one.
In which regard?
Okay. We haven't seen the inciting incident of them getting the diploma in the future, right? I was confused about that, but I guess Belinda still has the diploma. They probably get that one. Like, that seems to be the way we're going. I did notice the future diploma is not creased, whereas the one in the past obviously has creases from being trifolded. In the scene where he goes, look, they're identical. I'm like, no, they're not. But, okay. So the robots heard Belinda Chandra. This is what I'm choosing to start the loop. Go say to go get Al. And so they did, right? Were they ordered by Al to do that, or did they think independently? I don't think they were ordered by Belinda. Her power is purely nominative. And then
ordered by Al to get Al?
Yeah, but Al doesn't want to be here, which is another thing. Because Al's in charge. Al decides what the robots
I think Belinda's also in charge.
No, she can't say no to the person. They say her power is purely nominative. Which I'm pretty sure just means it's in name only, nominative, relating or denoting a cause of nouns, pronouns, or adjectives. It's purely she is the queen, but she has no real power. So that was a bit weird. Al also knew what was going to happen, like he wouldn't have had to be told. But also, every 9th cycle is Al's true thoughts. He does not want to be doing this, right? Mm-hmm. So what's his purpose? Is he just like a computer attached to the brain? He seemed to start wanting to do this. So is Al in charge, or is some AI thing in charge?
I think Al was in charge.
At the start, why would it have changed?
He looked like he was having fun.
Why would it have changed?
Well, I mean, maybe when he was like, yeah, I can become one with the machine. It sounds like a good idea, and then he becomes one with the machine, and he's like, this
But
sucks.
If Al was in charge originally, why would he at some point no longer be in charge?
I mean, maybe when he melded with the machine, something did go wrong.
And the robots went back, like, several 100,000 years, right? And that inspired the creation myth, which is why they went to go get Miss Belinda Chandra. Except they went to get her because Al wants her. Mm-hmm. So you don't need the creation myth. Let's also try and bring in the whole universal translator thing like 5,000 years ago at what I assume is the dawn of this society. My point is it doesn't really gel is a time paradox in ways that you can't fix by explaining how they get the diploma, which is one of those worst of Moffat's aspects things. It's like, if you don't really think about it, you can get it. And I just think Russell T Davies isn't a particularly strong writer with this kind of story, because you really need to think about the plot. And he really doesn't care about the plot, which was fine in his first run. But yeah, that was another aspect that kind of took me out of it. Although I do find it funny when he's like, he went back in time 10 years. And then in the flashback, we have a guy who's like, your robots are, what, 10 years ahead of our... He even says it like that. He's like,
yeah,
10 years? I don't know, just randomly.
I mean, I can't per se... I feel like I won't knock that as hard, given they are planning on wrapping up some of these loose ends, and I don't yet know how they're going to do it. I don't, per se, and I think I'm in agreement with you that I'm not assuming they're going to solve those problems, but I will allow myself the option of being surprised.
They can solve some of them, but...
Yeah.
They went to get Belinda, but they... Wait, why do they try and get the diploma in the future? They're, like, at peace now. Or was that, like, in an alternate timeline where they didn't get Belinda? Because they got the diploma. That means they... I guess maybe we see the second expedition, and in the finale we might see the first expedition? I'll leave that one be, but it is a question. I am sorry. I stand corrected. Miss Belinda Chandra is clearly 3 words.
Yeah, it looks like
document. It. I don't know if the planet... I think in the subtitles it might have been 1 word. But, I don't know. I've also just realized the whole 9-word thing kind of only works if they're speaking English, which does make sense for Al.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But...
Ooh, maybe.
The Doctor and Belinda would have been speaking English, but I actually... That's an interesting question. Yeah. I'd love to sit down with a script and count the 9 words, though, like proper. Yeah. I wonder if... I don't think they'd put anything extra, but yeah, it just didn't really seem to matter. You know, like, when the cat is irrelevant, does the 9th word in that matter? I don't know. Let's talk about the Doctor, right?
Yeah.
The one of the premises of this dynamic seems to be that, you know, the Doctor is dangerous, and he does some things without consent he really shouldn't. On my second watch through, I got the parallel of Belinda's like, you scanned my DNA without even asking, which is like almost identical to Rose's line, like, your machine gets inside my head. Your machine gets inside my head and changes how I think, and you didn't even ask, you know? Rose had a very similar thing. But that wasn't the dynamic. Was the Doctor off in this episode for you? I will explain myself. I kind of expect a no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This is one, the more I've thought and the more I've, like, read the reviews, I'm agreeing with. So obviously he blacked out a hospital and reacted with, like, sorry, not, like, the horror of the death toll he just caused. Maybe he tried to fix it, but his first reaction wasn't, like, stunned horror or getting to work. It was, like, a comical sorry. The ending, right? He's weirdly happy about the villain turning into a sperm and an egg, which I somehow, both my wife and I missed at the end in the first watch through. He's, like, literally laughing and, like, doing a dance about the death of a man who spent the better part of 10 years begging for help and mercy with every 9th word because his brain has been controlled by a computer and he has no say in his actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hits a little different now suddenly, doesn't it? He literally promised, like, I can help you, I can save you, like, immediately before. But Sasha 55 was a tragedy, of course. His plan in this scene is to open up a firefight with the rebels, which is dangerous. Like, basically everyone in this room, but 2 people die. That's actually a lot. Someone pointed out Russell T Davies has this doctor has a very high first episode body count, given that he threw a spaceship with no ability to maneuver itself towards another planet, and it was full of babies. But they probably could slow it down. It was inhabited. We talked about that on our review. The robots, are they alive? Because they seem to be able to think for themselves. Yes, they're controlled by Al, but when they're done, they're like, finally, we're free. And like, they still work. They didn't all die. They work independently. And we haven't established if the robots are alive or not. But if they are, he's kind of just fine murdering them. Which they are the evil oppressors, as far as he knows. But like, he wouldn't do this if they were biological. Or at least without the show being aware of it. There's a lot of instances with this, and I don't know if the show's actually aware of it, right? Because the whole thing is Belinda calls him out on a lot. He is he scans her DNA without permission. She points out how dangerous he is, what happened with Sasha, all that stuff. What she doesn't point out is, you mean you just stalked my entire life? When you say you walked through my entire life, is that a highlight reel or is that every scene? Have you watched me, shower? Have you watched me do it? Have you watched me, go to the bathroom? Like, are you a horrific stalker? If I had been on either end of that scenario, having watched someone's whole life or been seeing it, I would want to, never speak of this again and never see the other person again. I would feel if in the dark position, I had done a massive violation, and it wouldn't be my fault. I mean, no one chose to do it. Yeah. But, for the other person's sake in mind, I'd want to leave and never, just talk about this again. But he's like, oh, man, we have such a bond. It's like, what do you mean? This was one-sided, right?
Yeah.
And Belinda doesn't call him out. She looks a bit weirded out, but I feel like if he was being creepy and oblivious because that's what the show's going for, like he does with the DNA and stuff like that, Belinda would call him out because the things she doesn't call him out on are much worse than the things she does overall. I think she calls him out, you were at my house. It's like, well, a rocket ship just landed and you were being kidnapped and he's trying to get you back. I do think this is a good Samaritan instance, Yeah,
I think I agree with what you're saying, that the show might not even have a perception of that.
It's not as bad as it was with, the 13th Doctor. Because, as well, a lot of this stuff isn't things I quite clocked on the first watch through. But I think that means it's stuff that was kind of written. We won, let's celebrate, not really realizing it's the death of an innocent who was here technically because of Belinda. Unknowingly, that's the one thing she is actually responsible for. Which I guess makes her responsible for everything, but she didn't know that at the time. And, we just established he was begging for his life. So it's is he a controlling freak with that brilliantly acted, creepy lust, I'd even call it? As Belinda's talking about how awful a guy he was? He did this great. Or is he a helpless victim who's realized the error of his ways but can't get out because he's not in control? I don't think the episode knows. Because it hasn't decided if it's the camp version or the serious version.
Yeah.
Although shout-outs to a kid's show mentioning the sperm and the egg, I guess.
I did think that when they said that. Yeah.
David C., thank you for, I'm going to call it the $0 donation. I'll split evenly with Caden. An okay Doctor Who episode, but glad there are episodes for you to review this season. Yes, okay. I think it's the low side of okay. I'm very curious what IMDb thinks. They're probably going to rate it higher than, The Devil's Chord, and it'll make me mad. But, yeah, this really got me, right? A lot of the Reddit people were saying, and I think this was part of why they're okay with it, not great, but pretty standard for a Russell T Davies opening. Are we watching different episodes? We know their opinion on Space Babies, which, I'll be fair, is hardly like something to write home about. Rose is not perfect. It's far from perfect. It's a little silly with like the plastic Mickey and all that, but by and large, I think it's a competently written episode. It demonstrates Rose as a character very well, the Doctor as a character very well, even Mickey gets some good establishment that we'll build on later. It does a very good job at what it's doing, especially given the circumstances it's made under, even if it has flaws. Smith and Jones, Jejune Platoon on the Moon. That's just a good episode, right?
Yeah.
That's just good. Partners in Crime, you haven't seen, with Donna, that's the Adipose episode, I also think is just good. It's got that superb, like, basically silent first few openings. The scene where they're talking through the window silently is brilliant. It's fun. The reintroduction of Donna does great. It's a good episode. Space Babies is the only weak link here. And I'm like, what do you mean this is like a standard Russell T Davies finale to me? It's a non-epic finale. What do you mean his intro episodes are bad? Even if they're the Christmas specials, like Christmas Invasion is good, especially as a potentially risky regeneration. It really chooses to focus on Rose correctly. Voyage of the Damned is the highest viewed episode of Doctor Who, I think, ever. God knows what the other Christmas special is, Caden. the Donna one, the Runaway Bride, that one's good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, every one of those episodes is on another league compared to this one. I don't know what the fandom is going on about there. I mean, it tracks with Space Babies. I think they're similar, even though I prefer Space Babies. But, yeah, I don't know. I really disagreed with that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know what? I complained about the Nine-Word thing. It's done well, is a scene. Following the Doctor. It'd be fun on a rewatch where you could potentially actually hear the words he's saying. I like the direction and the action. There's something about this frame that's very unnatural and, like, unnerving.
Yeah.
The music, I think, as well. Shudi's doing it great here. He's also really giving off Lando Calrissian vibes. I think it's the hair he's grown out.
Yeah.
Didn't we talk about this? It might have been with Alex that I described the 15th Doctor as Lando Calrissian, but the Doctor. Is that reference landing, by the way?
Yeah.
Cool. I realized it might not be as obvious. Yeah, no, I read something, though, which, speaking of Shudi's amazing range, citation needed. This is a Reddit, someone referencing an interview Russell T Davies did, but it tracks, which is why I'm going to share it, that he asked the writers for the first season, and presumably the second, to write the 15th Doctor as differently as possible between episodes, so just to show off Ncuti Gatwa's range as an actor. I am perpetually amazed that Russell T Davies can write good episodes of television, is my response. Because what you don't know. I actually think this might be why, after season 1, everyone felt like, I can't rank 15 because he's not done yet. He's doing good, but he's not finished as a character. It might be because the character might not really be there. The personality's there.
There's not a lot of arc.
I'm like, if he's genuinely being written as differently as possible, which to his credit, I don't think I saw in the writing. He didn't feel like an inconsistent character. That might be why, is that there isn't. Although, to be fair, that's arguably what a classic Doctor is more a personality than, like, I'm damaged from the Time War, and this is the arc I'm going to go on. They were very much set. And, like, that's saying they aren't characters is a massive disservice. But, you know, they are generally defined by, like, the type of person they are, the personality. Because, you know, they are all the same character. You know, even 15 is the same character as 1. Even though that's probably the biggest gap I can think of. Which would be good. I have said I would like more of a return to that classic-style Doctor.
Yeah.
Here's the shots from the trailers that made people think the Daleks were in the series, which they might be. I don't know that they are or aren't, but I like his older hairstyle better. I legitimately did not notice he changed his hair until my wife pointed it out, because it's been a while.
I did when I first was watching this episode, seeing him in his room, I was like, oh, they screwed up his costume. His hair's different than when the episode started. And then I learned that 6 months went by, and I was like, oh, his hair grew. And I thought that was really cool.
I noticed the change. He's so handsome, but the new hairstyle's not doing for him. I think it's fine. I think the problem is that this is what Lando Calrissian looked like. And so he just looks like Lando Calrissian. Let me just get an image of him up. Okay, so Lando, Caden, for you. Oh, I'm streaming the wrong monitor? What? I'm streaming the Disney Plus window. For some reason, it picked up on that. Lando's got thicker hair. His mustache is, I guess, a little thicker. But especially from memory, it is very Lando Calrissian. And it doesn't help that they have similar builds. Like, specifically, obviously, 70s Lando Calrissian. They have similar builds, like similar skin color. I think their eye color might be the same. If you needed to recast Lando Calrissian, you'd cast Ncuti Gatwa.
Yeah, you could do it.
That's the problem that I'm getting. But, like, it's not ruining it for me. I do think... I actually have to look up 15th Doctor. Like, what it looked like before. Oh, yeah. You know what? Having just watched his new one, he looks a little weird with the more skinhead. One day, like Peter Capaldi, he'll be long gone, and we'll have a consensus on which hair looked better. But, I don't know. It gives off Lando vibes, but I also think that's the outfit. Put him in his Doctor uniform, or even like those earlier ones, he doesn't look like Lando to me. So I think it's the clothing, hair combination.
Yeah, set 2 could do it.
In fact, let me just go find... I don't know. There's previews. I don't know. We'll find one. Wouldn't be 15th Doctor episode without a cry.
You
want to talk about it?
Continuing the streak. Just beautiful at some point we should go back and count how many episodes he hasn't cried in, if there have been any. I don't remember.
So I could Google that. There definitely were. Like, obviously 73 yards. But... Actually, if you discount 73 yards, and Dot and Bubble, he actually did cry in, so it doesn't matter. People say it's Dr. Light. I disagree. Fight me. He did the Church on Ruby Road, which was brilliant. I actually like that instance. Space Babies, he did when the boogeyman was going away. Devil's Cord, no.
Do not recollect.
Yes, he did. When he found out it was Maestro, he cried. I remember that. Boom, yes. 73 yards, he was barely in. Dot and Bubble, yes. Rogue, yes, when he thought Ruby died. Legend of Ruby Sunday, no, but he did in Empire of Death. I think that's the way around. So if you count the 2-part finale as one episode and ignore 73 yards, then yes, he's cried in every episode. Because I think he did Joy to the World. Did he, actually?
I don't know.
But still, it's a consistency and not a frequency issue. Could you imagine David Tennant like crying in every episode? It's just,
No.
I don't want linger too much on this because we'll do it in like every episode. But this reaction is basically almost as strong as when literally the entire universe ended. He did scream when literally the entire universe ended, but it just is meaningless. Like, I know that it's a more serious moment because he's crying and it's affecting him, and I'm open to a doctor who is more open on their sleeve, but I think narratively, it's turned what was previously a huge moment into something that is a drinking game.
When we were just watching Family of Blood and getting to see David Tennant's kind of breakdown, even though he was a human being in that moment, just the fact that David Tennant is shedding tears in Doctor Who was powerful.
Make Ncuti Gatwa do it and put it in that like middle of this season. It would still be an incredibly acted scene, just like Dot and Bubble, just like Church on Ruby Road. But it would, none of that would be the crying. It's because David Tennant also act like the dialogue, the body language, the facial, like, and look at this scene. It is there is facial stuff. Like, he's clearly holding back. The fact he's facing away from Belinda, but it's just impact is all for me. And I don't know how to balance that really. It's good to have a man this open, because that's still, a bit of a stigma in a lot of parts of the world. But it is doing damage, and I'm not convinced what we're gaining is better.
Yeah.
I also think citation needed. I also think I recall hearing they might be doing this just because Ncuti Gatwa can cry on demand, which is actually quite impressive if this is all natural. But it kind of goes back to him being like, write the Doctor as differently as possible. I'm like, Doctor Who is not a role that's like your actor audition to everything else. Itself. Often it is like a launching point for up-and-coming stars. Gatwa, Tennant, Smith. But like, it's more than that too, No character should be an advertisement in itself. The advertisement should be how good you are is the character, which, I mean, to be fair, all our complaints are writing, so not like it matters. And I'll say as well, with my complaints about Belinda, when she is doing the serious scenes, I don't remember the actress's name, but she does them well. I think she's a good actress. It's hard to judge how good an actor is when they are quipping, because there's not really any substance. But I had to think, and on the rewatch, the scenes where she's doing something are good. The scenes where she is more grounded, she is good as an actor. So.
In Boom too, she was amazing in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was so much stronger a performance than this.
I 100% agree.
I'm gonna be very upset if Belinda is also like this, but is basically Bad Marvel for the rest of the season. Yeah, because it's the second instance of handing us a great non-standard, like non-modern day Earth human companion, throwing them in the bin and picking the modern one. This happened for Clara, who has a Victorian character that the Olivia Colman plays, and is like better than modern day Clara. And I don't even hate modern day Clara. I think she's good. But again, right, picture this. A companion who is deeply religious, it's the Anglican military, right? Who has just learned that everything they have fought for is a lie driven by corporate capitalist greed. All her friends are dying. Her faith is possibly shaken. I think she was very still strong to her faith. Now having the chance to travel the universe, particularly with a man who was quite harsh on her faith, is her faith broken when she sees the other worlds? Maybe she encounters another religion who's like just as fervent as her. That's episode 1. Is they go to some like religious war, some alien crusade, who are like just as passionate about their religion, which obviously she thinks is wrong, is hers.
Yeah.
And like that potentially shakes her further, and you could potentially build her back up. You know.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunity for religious discussion, not just, bashing on it, which is arguably what these 2 episodes would have been, but a more middle ground. You could have a message of tolerance for both sides, atheists and religious folk. There's a lot of ground there, right?
Yeah.
And if we just get a quippy character, that is a little bit upsetting.
Yeah.
Obviously, the circumstances are different. But like I think they cast her as this woman as a companion because of Monday. Citation needed.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I think it was similar to Martha, who had actually been auditioning for a lot of parts. She got the part as like random Torchwood lady, but they had her on the radar for companion because they liked all her auditions. She just never got a part or was cut or something. If you ever look it up, Angela Freeman has like an interesting journey to becoming a Doctor Who character, and she's in the spinoff, not as Martha, but as like some random woman.
Oh.
War Between the Land and the Sea. Yeah, you know what? This underground scene almost feels like it came from the COVID era, where you couldn't have too many actors in one place. Because, as I said, I feel like the hospital should be a little more traumatized for how Belinda reacts, The scene where the doctor blacks out a hospital for a laugh is literally more traumatic than like the hospital after nearly everyone dies in a catastrophic offensive.
Yeah.
That's a little, I don't know that, but hey, I'm not the budget guy. It does make sense it's empty if everyone died, but
yeah. I don't know. I kind of like this scene. I thought the X-ray blanket was funny, and I liked how they did the Doctor Two Hearts. And the doctor and the nurse duo, sort of kind of mirroring Martha as we've been watching.
Oh, what, the first modern day doctor companion we've had? Yes.
I liked how they.
Yeah.
I liked it with the Doctor and new companions. You always get them learning the TARDIS is bigger on the inside, or like what Time Lords and time travel and Two Hearts. And this one I liked.
This scene was the strongest because it was grounded. Despite my complaint of not understanding why Belinda thinks she is, it's her fault.
Yeah.
This is where the show becomes more grounded, and it starts to more commit to that more serious take.
Yeah.
And then I think we get to the owl stuff, and it's, puns, and it's a Russell T Davies finale. But yeah, no, I'd agree. This is the best showcase of the dynamic, probably. What else have we got this scene? The explanation was pretty good with the diploma. I didn't really like how he did the two heart things. It felt kind of random, or like, I know you're going to be the companion. I guess he does. That's something we haven't talked about yet. We'll get to that. But I was thinking, actually, it's more... This is the Doctor after he's, like, worked through all his trauma. He did his therapy. This is a Doctor who is being more open, who has explicitly said he is trying to be more open. And I think I actually like it. As you were describing it, I think I've come around to a Doctor who's like, yeah, I'm a Time Lord from Gallifrey. I'm the last of my kind, yada, yada. Who's just like, it's that sort of change we've been needing. And I hadn't clocked it yet. That being said, I have seen some complaints, and I agree. Sasha 55, who the Doctor refuses to say 55, I don't know why, he's someone he's been close with, someone with 6 months. This is as close as he would have been with Ruby in Space Babies, or Boom, actually. That was the 6 months time skip. He's essentially just experienced the death of a companion he didn't even get to travel with. He didn't get the, like, bigger on the inside bit. He didn't get all that.
Yeah.
He's a little quick to be like, hey, you want to be next? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess he has to take this girl with her. But there's plenty of episodes where he's like, yo, I'll take you back. Like, just hop in my TARDIS and then we'll be off. We'll take you back and go. And I agree. And I think that's just the disconnect between, are you the fun, serious, or you the fun one or the serious episode, and Russell not thinking through the plot as much as I probably say he should.
Yeah.
It's one of the weaker aspects of Russell that I think it was in his first run, but is a little more prevalent here. And it doesn't ruin it for me. I mean, I don't think it's impossible the Doctor would be that quick. We're about to finish when Martha leaves. We're gonna get the Christmas special with one of those like almost companions who says no. And like Martha doesn't die, you know, but that's kind of quick. You get the impression it hasn't been long. It could have been like 100 years. I don't know. Even now, it could have been like 100 years since Ruby, but it's not 100 years since Sasha.
Yeah.
It is minor, but again, there's a lot of minor criticisms. Oh my gosh, hour and a half. We're still good on time though. We're not gonna run out. Yeah, look, it's not creased, whereas the modern one was obviously folded.
Well, that is also a recording he took of it.
Russell T. Davies. Ruining my Doctor Who. No. It's explained. It's all explained in episode 5, because this is a future diploma. It is fun. A doctor experiencing an adventure that's a consequence of like the end of the season. This is actually the deal with the 11th Doctor. Is Stephen Moffat really loved the idea of a doctor whose first episode is dealing with the consequences of his final episode. But I don't know. We'll have to see if it really works. I think the timey-wiminess, much like with Stephen Moffat, is a little off. But I've just remembered the thing we forgot to talk about. The Doctor starts out looking for Belinda. Remember? He mentioned some guy told him Belinda's important and he's got to be careful because timey-wimey. Which is not a scene we've seen. Was not in Joy of the World, was not in season 1. There's not even really like an important male. I'm just drawing a blank. I can't think of an important male.
I don't think we have anyone.
Besides the Doctor. Yeah. Unless it's like the Master, but he's a tooth right now, so, you know. I had this talk with my wife who just met the Master in Classic Who. And they were like, they asked me, I think, what happened to if the Master was alive in 15, because, you know, all the Time Lords are dead or whatever. And I went, yes, but he's a golden tooth. And they're like, I don't know if I should believe you. And I'm like, no, he is. He's a golden tooth. But I don't know yet. And especially because, no, I won't say that. That's later talk. But that actually I am intrigued in, you know?
Yeah.
It's the mystery box. Like, Miss Flood is a woman, I assume. I guess she could be like a god hiding her face or whatever. It could be the boss, this mysterious boss some people have been mentioning. Was that in season 1? Yeah, Rogue mentioned he had a new boss. In the 14th, the 14th Doctor, 60th anniversaries, one of the villains, like Beep the Meep, had mentioned a boss. The Toy Maker had mentioned, I think, like someone he didn't want to play a game with. That might have been Sutek, I think. But we've been confirmed that the boss and Sutek are different people. Presumably the boss is the big bad of this season. Because, well, they didn't have a season 3. They didn't write it yet. So, it's probably them, but it's weird that the Doctor would have encountered this person before. So So actually, this is the first time I've been engaged with your arc. Don't mess it up. Oh, give me a moment. Thanks for entertaining him while I had
You're
a
welcome.
moment.
We were all giving you a moment.
Yes, thank you. Hey, look, Miss Belinda Chandra, 1. It is one word. Miss Belinda Chandra kind should be 1 word. Even though we just learned the star should be 2, but you're a grumble. Can I take a moment to have a small rant about alien planets as seen from space?
Yeah.
Look at this planet and look from Earth. Other way around. This planet and look at Earth. Games, movies, like, it doesn't matter. Let's take a moment at Earth, right? You've got, like, the boot of Italy. You've got whatever Florida is. You've got, like, Scandinavia, just this big claw out. Look at how many weird specific shapes are. The Iberian Peninsula. India's kind of a jot. The weird Middle East with canals. Look at this planet. Alien planets are so often kind of big blobs with shapes. I notice this. Designers are, like, afraid of looking like you drew something in the planet, right? Because they want it to look natural. Am I making sense here? Like, if you were drawing a planet, you wouldn't draw a boot. Because, like, that's a boot, you know? But Earth's got a boot. It's Italy. It's Scandinavia. It's the bit of Canada that juts into the Puget Sound in Washington. It's Florida. Like, Earth has so many weird things we look at and, like, think are shapes. I think people who make alien planets, because they always look unnatural to me, need to get used to, like, this planet has an arm just coming out of a continent. Because that's what nature does. There's loads of weird shapes, but you're never going to get a Baltic Sea or a Mediterranean. Like, I guess maybe that's a Mediterranean, but it's just a Pangea. And it doesn't look real, you know? I want, like, there to be an episode of space tourists who come to Earth just to look at it because of how weird it looks. Do one of the two.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm on the other team. Maybe Earth is the weird one, you know?
Maybe, but in astronomy, there's generally a rule that, like, we're probably normal. This is wrong, actually. Our sun is unusual, astronomically speaking. Don't get me wrong, it's not, like, unique, but it's far from the most common type of star. And for ages, it's kind of the assumption that, like, rightfully so, what we're seeing isn't weird. You know, the planets in this solar system aren't weird. Even Earth maybe is a little rarer, but, like, you know, if Earth can evolve, there should be other planets that are Earth-like and have life. But then when our telescopes improved and stuff, we found out our sun actually is unusual, the type of star that it is. So, like, sometimes it could be there's just something unusual. Our solar system's actually seemingly a little unusual. Take this with a grain of salt, because small rocky planets are the hardest to find. The fact that we don't know that if there's a planet 10 or 9, whatever, in our solar system, imagine trying to do that for another star. Our planet seems unusual in our system in that it has, like, mostly every type of planet. We don't have a super Earth, but beyond that, we kind of have every type of planet there is, which seems to be a little odd. I mean, it's hardly impossible, but, like, that's a great coincidence. We've got rings, we've got gas giants, we got Earth, we've got a Mars, like a Venus, we got the rocky random things. Like, especially when you count moons and stuff. This is a great, like, sample. All we're missing is a super Earth, which is just an Earth-like planet that's real big. So, yeah, you know, sometimes things are interesting, but usually, you know, we're a representative sample. You know, I don't think there's anything else about this scene specifically I want to talk about. Judging the word timey-wimey. Russell didn't even write that one, though.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My 6. That was fun, though. Yeah, I kind of like timey-wimey is a thing that the Doctor said once and rolled with it. But I'm always aware that it's an artificial thing. you know?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first use case of timey-wimey? Because it was Blink. It comes from Blink. It's, the words after are, that sentence got away from you a bit, didn't it? Yeah, it did. It's like the doctor judges timey-wimey, but I guess he's like, you know what? I kind of like it, actually. Even though, of course, it's an out-of-universe thing, you know? Shout-outs. I do want to give shout-outs to Manny, right? This is not a good frame, but I'm like, Russell, you had AI generator. You can't take the most manly John Rambo guy there is and name him Manny. But I did kind of like it, you know? Look at this guy. He's big, he's buff, he's dressed like Rambo, he's a bit of a dick. Like, come on. He's like the poster child for masculinity. Come on, like, you can't call him Manny. But that's absolutely what he did. This is, if it's written by Russell T. Davies in a pun, yes, it was intended.
Yeah.
I respect. Don't sound disappointed. Respect that.
You know, I get all torn up about it.
2 puns in one is a bit much for me with
it was a lot.
and Al.
Yep.
Yeah. I also noticed that the L was being covered the first time, but I was like, AI generator, you know? And like, why would it be Al? You know?
Yeah,
why would it be Al?
Definitely.
Yeah, not a whole lot of this. God, it's so... You know what it is? And please don't take this wrong way. This is Disney theme park vibes. And I'm not saying that because Disney is funding Doctor Who, right?
Yeah.
Disney did not give the note, oh, can you please make the robot look more like a Disney theme park? But it's the right level of camp for the camp version of this episode. I dig it.
Yeah. The sets, a lot of work has been done on these sets.
It hurts because there's 2 versions of this episode I really like. There's the Cybermen horror one, which I don't know if it would really work for a companion introduction, although it'd be real interesting for a medical professional. And the fun, campy Space Babies thing that no one else would have liked, but I would have loved. Yeah. There's, I don't think, too much to say around here. I
spent a lot of time in the room.
They did a lot of work on this. They actually really did. It doesn't feel like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But he was creepy. The actor, big shout outs to that. It was lust, but like, well, he was being condemned for how bad of a person he was.
Yeah.
It was very unsettling and
gross. Made me feel icky.
Which was the point.
Yeah,
you know, well done.
Because it's like, whenever you're watching like a movie and you really hate the bad guy, you know, oh, they're a good actor. Because I actually
think I'm more impressed with this guy than I was Belinda, but that's probably a large part of the material that they were given.
Yeah.
You know, I even this, that's just not the cyborg stuff, but this expression is just unsettling. Does he do the thing where he never blinks? Because that's really effective.
I don't know. I didn't notice in either direction.
But it would kind of make sense. You know what? In here, I think she did kind of react like a person. Because it was like, what the hell? Even in that section, like, Al? What the hell? Like, Al? Although the Stargate pun, like, I don't know about that one. Whole episode felt very Disney.
Oh, yeah.
No. It felt... The robots felt toyish, which is Disney. But it got too serious about some specific things to be Disney. What it is it's the trying to appeal to the kids, I think. There were a lot of elements that felt Disney. I think overall, I would not say this. If you told me Disney made this, and not like, you know, one of the many publishing things, but Disney themselves made this, I would be surprised. But, yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I definitely don't think like created by Disney, but like I see the relation in the moments where it decides to be campy.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it's not being serious, it has a very Disney skin.
Yeah.
It does not have a Disney substance. It has possibly a Marvel. If you told me, if Belinda had like some minor superpower, and you told me this was the new Marvel show on Disney Plus, I would believe that. Take out the Doctor, I would believe that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the skin. The set's definitely the robots, yeah. But also, I don't know if Disney does this retrofuturism. Maybe I'm too much like, no, this is like Doctor Who. This is Russell T Davies 2 era Doctor Who. It's retrofuturism. But it definitely, there are a lot of Disney similarities, but I'm very cautious of saying this because so many people conflate Disney actually making Doctor Who, and none of the Disney-esque. I even struggle to see Disney being like, could you add a few more quips to the episode, please? It's like, that doesn't feel like a note, especially because they saw Church on Ruby Road and they had one note, literally one note. It takes a while to really meet the Doctor. And then Russell was like, you're right. And he wrote the snowman scene. Which, funny enough, actually, one of these women, I think it's Susan 55, is apparently the woman who almost gets crushed by a snowman in that scene. Which some people ask, is this a big deal? But actually, we know when this episode was filmed, and when that specific scene was filmed, they probably just had her available. It's like, hey, you're filming this, take, can we steal you? But that's a fun note that I learned from the Reddit. Here you go. I will say, I think their messaging was muddled here. They needed to either commit more or less to this guy being a controlling freak.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I kind of got the vibe, especially when he's stepping off the rocket, that he's doing the things he does and thinks the things he does because he's a gamer. Not because he's controlling. He's like, you mean this is a game? I can control everything, do everything. And I genuinely don't actually know if he's making a metaphor or the way he's rationalizing this is it is genuinely a video game.
Yeah.
Aliens that look retro future, like what the hell is this? Because, like, I mean, there are elements of fun. I play some games where, like, you can do, like, it'd be bad. You could, like, go to war or something, you know?
Yeah.
It felt, but I came across, like, conflating gamer to I specifically play Call of Duty and also, you know, I don't think that was the intent, but I got those vibes of, like, he's a gamer and that's why he's bad. But at worst it muddled the water. Well, at best it muddled the waters. At worst it's offensive, you know.
Yeah.
But I wish they had done more than the one line of like, oh, you've taken, what was it? Something control? I don't know the term. And like taken it to a whole planet, which is again a great concept. I just wish we had an episode about it. Russell's been very direct with his political messaging in the episodes he's written this run. I'm not sure that was the case originally, but I'm struggling to think of like a directly political. We had like Aliens of London World War III is about Iraq or Iran or like generally politicians using acts of terrorism to gain control. Can you tell it's 4 years after 9/11, for example? And but that's like, I didn't realize that. I watched it as a kid, but even as an adult, I think that had to be pointed out. I'm like, oh yeah.
Subtle.
Yeah, it is more subtle, but those episodes, as much as they're about farting aliens, are also about that.
Yeah.
And to be fair, part 1 I criticize of World War III, Aliens of London, the first one. I also criticize for not knowing what it wants to be. If it wants to be a camp episode about farting aliens, or an episode about the world being held ransom by nuclear weapons, thinking it's going to be destroyed. And I get very similar vibes with this one, but there's no part 2 that's just better.
Well, not yet.
Well, I don't. There might be a better episode, but it's not a part 2. It's just a different episode.
Yeah.
That I also think is written by Russell T Davies. Doctor Who. I think Russell is writing the first 2. He is co-writing a middle one, and the finale. The 2-part finale is what he's writing. I hope you don't count that spoilers. I'm sorry. Actually, the fact it's a 2-part finale might have been a spoiler. I saw Stephen Moffat. I'm like, what? But that's the Christmas special. Yeah, Russell's writing the next one. He is co-writing the one after that, and then he's doing the 2-part finale. Speaking of which, Disney, I'd like a word. Because if you were to go to Doctor Who, let's just go. I can't own the... Let's... Whoops. Well... Okay, we got season 1, right? Church on Ruby Road. We've got the whole season. Empire of Death, right? Where's Joy to the World, Disney? Do you want to know where Joy to the World is? It lives on its own as a movie. Do you know what they call it in the thumbnail?
What do they call it?
Special 5. Church on Ruby Road is Special 4, which I complain about, but it's right there, you know? Special 1, 2, and 3 are the 60th and are not the jumping on point. So, feasibly, one could learn they've skipped a Christmas special, see it Special 5, and go back to Special 1 and, like, spoil the previous 20 years of the show. But Disney, you're doing the Amazon problem. No one's gonna know. How would you know you missed an episode called Joy to the World?
Yeah, you don't.
You wouldn't. Yes, by the way, my Disney Plus profile is Carl from Up because it was a grumpy old man. Yes, because I found it funny that he was the only profile out of all of them who was not happy, and it was a grumpy old man.
I'm glad you have that.
Yes, I know. That makes me happy. That makes me this happy. Maybe not. Maybe not that happy.
That's pretty happy.
I don't know. That was too happy. I don't know. I think I've said what I want to say. He's weirdly fine with the villain's death. Look at him. This is the death of an innocent.
Absolutely delighted.
But I'm also unclear if he was innocent or not. It was a Russell T Davies finale. I think that's what you can say about it. Which, I do like this robot, though, who looks like he's making, like, a ooh face. Like a newt. What's it? A Pingu face? You see that guy?
Oh, wait, I don't... Is it on the corner
phone?
that's...
Yeah, this little guy. I know you're on a phone.
Oh, I have to full screen.
He's giving a Pingu face, like, newt.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like, are they celebrating the death of Al Bundy? What was his name? It's Al something. Al Bundy. Am I just confusing him with, like, serial killer Ted Bundy?
I think you might be.
Al Bundy. No, Al Bundy's a real guy. Well, he's a fictional character. Alfonso Al Bundy is a fictional character and the protagonist of the American television series Married. His jersey number's 33. First appearance pilot. I know nothing about Al Bundy, but apparently I've heard his name somewhere and it's stuck.
It's nestled itself in there.
Al Bundy, that's what I'm gonna call the guy. Yeah. He does kind of remind me of Zem Shah, who was a villain in 13th Doctor, but it's mostly because he's a gray guy in full makeup. I think. Not super important. I'm not sure about these arches. They don't speak retrofuturism to me. I guess they're guardrails, but it is actually kind of Cloud City too. That may be why it's feeling Lando.
Yeah, I'm alright with them. Little light beams.
It's a nitpick. I love the rest of the city though. I adore the rest of the city, which does feel.
I agree with that.
I could see that in Disney and Marvel though as well. Like it definitely has a skin.
Oh yeah.
But broadly, this is probably the most generic this era's been stylistically. Broadly, I think Modern Doctor Who has found a brilliant visual of retrofuturism that is evocative of a lot of the older retrofuturism and even a lot of stylistic things of modern sci-fi now, but is still unique in its own thing, which is very important. I don't think I've ever seen a modern sci-fi look like that doesn't feel generic. But like that Time Hotel is just beautiful.
Oh, that was so good.
This is the most generic it's been, but even then it gels with what we've had before. It gels with the TARDIS, with the Time Hotel. It feels like it's the same show. I'm really liking this aesthetic. Even if I say the TARDIS needs to be homely. There's some other things like that. The base for the TARDIS, I love the console, like wooden trim around the light with the wood. You need wood. is a big thing. Do you want to say anything about this scene, by the way, with the thing they didn't call the Benovich limitation effect?
I have more to say just about the creative expression and cinematography and how it looked visually. I thought was pretty cool. Story-wise, I'm neutral on what's happening here.
Yeah.
But visually, it's so different, but in like a good way that I'm okay with. I liked it.
I kind of got the vibes of like I was kind of waiting for it to end to get back to the plot. I was kind of getting the vibes I've said of like seeing the director's hand, or more like you're doing something flashy for the sake of it being flashy, a style over substance kind of issue. Maybe if I had liked the better episode more, I would have been, I wouldn't have been as like, all right, let's wrap it up. I knew what I thought about this episode at the 20-minute mark,
Yeah.
But maybe that's just me, Now I'm thinking, like, is this better than the recent Doctor Who stories I've heard? I'm like, is this better than Time Worm Genesis? I don't know. I think the plot is worse, but look, it is. Look at this guy. Look at the Pingu robot.
He's surprised. He's more shocked than ever that he turned from an egg.
He's like Al Bundy from the hit show Married. He's just died.
He's gone.
There's another one back there, too. Yeah. They're also keeping their white uniforms really clean. I love a building like that. Don't get me wrong, I'd never want to actually go up that thing or live under that thing, but
absolutely horrifying.
The Space Needle, the Space Noodle? Seattle, yeah. The Space Needle was very scary. I did go up it once, but it's scary. Tokyo Tower was scary too. I don't know why I go up these places. Well, I do. But, I did find it funny. There you go. There's a good look at the manliest man you've seen. And
they're so happy.
Yeah. You are going to have fun with the episode about the emoji robots. It's giving me that vibes.
I remember those, I think.
It's 12th Doctor, so you shouldn't.
Oh, okay. I don't remember those.
But yeah, it's called Smile. But, okay, they renamed this building after the, like, friends they lost, right? Sasha 55. Manly, you didn't name this building after the friends you lost. You named this building after the girl you lost. It's not like the Liberation Day Memorial Citadel. It's literally just called Sasha 55. Which, could you imagine if, like, instead of the White House, we had Dave? Or, like, George Washington? It's like the president lives at George Washington. That's weird.
You raise a good point.
Not even Sasha 5 Memorial Citadel. Hey, it's a different culture. Maybe that's how they do it. My thing I've always had, I don't like how hive minds are done in sci-fi. I think they're generally done bad. Weirdly enough, I think the only like good hive mind I've seen are the original Borg from Star Trek, that first episode, and Unity from Rick and Morty are like the only good. But I've always wanted a hive mind that is like, a bunch of people, a true hive mind. It's one like thought, but it's got all the cells, like Unity, the individual people, and it would be called Harold. Because it's a hive mind. It's an individual. It should have a name. Like, the species would be Harold. It would identify as Harold. Like, I want a hive mind named Harold. I'm a simple reviewer, you know? Someone pointed out something to me recently, by the way. I think it's being obscured, but one of the tiles is wonky, and it's been wonky ever since they built the set, and no one's fixed it.
You get up there and fix it.
What can I say except you're welcome? You know, I would. If I worked on the set, they have to be able to get up there. Surely they clean them. Like, that's going to get dirty. This set's been sitting around for months, like, unused. Not months, like 2 years. I think they've just been sitting on these sets. They are still standing.
Ooh.
A lot of rumors. There's a lot of doom and gloom. Everyone was like calm after Disney was like, this is literally the top like performing top 5 shows every year week it aired. Doctor Who, its overnight views this episode were 2 million on the BBC, right? Which is probably like a low point for the whole franchise. It was also the second most viewed show that night. It's like, it's literally like, it's been in the top 5 or top 10 of like every viewing metric we've seen. And we don't get the Disney ones directly, just that announcement. But like, despite what would, 20 years ago have been abysmal, 60 years ago, it was abysmal viewer figures.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best shows out there, performance-wise, and it's particularly in the under 35s, which is what Disney and the BBC want. Yeah. It is like, I think it's the #1 in-demand streaming show for the under 35s, period, across all platforms.
Man, they're doing pretty good.
Like, Doctor Who's been canceled, they've recast Ncuti Gatwa, it's gonna just go away forever. That's the narrative. And I'm going to be so mad if Disney doesn't renew the deal. You know why? Because the amount of, like, self-righteous I told you so when, like, they've actually been saying it for 2 years before Disney actually decided not to fund it. It's like, come on, guys. How many times do you need the producers to tell you everything's going to be okay? I don't know, something about just closing the TARDIS doors. I find it funny, people peering in. It's like, is that bigger on the inside? But they're not reacting.
Weird from here. That can't be right.
However, I like the black phone too. However, I don't like when he closed the doors, the windows go black for some reason. And like one at a time, which feels like someone didn't get the cue to turn the studio light off, or they had to walk between them. Like, it doesn't feel intentional, Did you notice that?
Yeah, a bit of a...
But, like, that's the thing, where as a director, I'd go, cut! It's like, you did the lights wrong. Let's just redo that one, But,
probably slipped by.
I don't know. Maybe it was supposed to.
At least the whole bottom half of the screen isn't stage lighting and set.
Yeah, Well, you don't need lighting for this set.
Yeah.
So actually, I guess the whole bottom is stage lighting. Does this make you feel better about the windows being a different color? You've complained. Because it's the same on there, but then it, I guess, has a filter. We haven't taken off, so...
I've learned acceptance when it comes to the color, and it'll never be how I want.
There you go.
It'll just be... Yeah, that is a bit painful.
Well, it will be, because it was the right color. The windows match the interior color for the first, 20 years of this reboot. I don't think there was a light in the classic. It's been too long, though. No, I'm on the third Doctor. We don't have a TARDIS. I haven't seen that thing in ages. Yeah. I like this scene. I like a companion calling out the Doctor for his stuff. I do feel like we are adding more problematic stuff specifically for this dynamic, though. A lot of... he would have scanned Ruby. He scanned Amy to find out if she was pregnant, which is... But most of what the Doctor did here that I think is problematic and they're calling out, I don't think he would have done with Ruby. I feel like we've inserted the Doctor has to be more problematic now. I don't know if we would have even had the hospital scene with Ruby. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it does feel like we've changed him a bit for the arc.
I thought he secretly did scan Ruby because he didn't like in one of the
you know what? I think he legitimately did. But I did say I could see him doing the DNA thing. But some of the other things that both the show has pointed out and that it hasn't, I don't know. I guess he did like stalk Ruby as well. You know what? I might just be wrong, and it might just be the things the episode didn't notice that are the problems. Not you know, it's probably that. I'm gonna be honest, but we'll see as the series goes on.
Yeah.
I had something else to say. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, when did he have the time to scan Monday though?
That's a good question.
I was wondering about that one. It's like the DNA's a perfect match. It's like how do you know?
He went back, he checked in on him.
Yeah, did he time scan Ruby one day?
Ruby one day.
Another thought.
When they were reminiscing
about
the little girl's dead dad.
The next companion, right? Mm-hmm. Are they going to have Tuesday in their name?
I hope we get through all days of the week, yeah.
Russell, he's in for 7 seasons. You're in for the long haul, guys.
Yeah.
He's like, please, Disney, don't defund me. I need to get to Tuesday. It's such a good pun.
That's why he did it, because he wants more seasons, and so he's threatening them.
They're Norse, too. The Tuesday one. They're from Norway, because you can make a Thursday pun, That's actually the nomenclature for Tuesday. Actually, no, wait, that is Thursday. I think it's Thursday. Thursday sounds more like Thursday than Tuesday, but one of those legitimately comes from the Norse for Thursday. A lot of our days of the week come from Norse. Friday was like Freya Day. What's it? It's like the main female goddess.
I don't know.
You can look them up, but not all of them, but a lot of them are Norse, which I've always thought was interesting because I don't think we get a lot of Norse in our language. Although they did invade England, I guess.
Yeah, that is true.
And I think we're approaching the end. Is this going to be a... Oh, spoilers. Yeah, we got all the wonders of the world, thankfully, had the courtesy to blow up together. But also, dang, that Eiffel Tower, it survived the destruction of the universe. That's, of course, the famous black cab, the cab.
Of course, the one.
Yeah. And this is how, by the way, we were able to predict the release date of this episode like a year ago. Maybe someone got that spot. We knew the finale would be like May 24th. It's actually, now that I'm saying that out loud. June 7th, Actually, we were 2 weeks off. I wonder if that was changed. Because my original penned in, I had us penned in for 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it's funny because Russell T Davies, we'd somehow managed to like get closer to the actual date. Did the BBC leak it? I think it was before then. The BBC accidentally aired a trailer where they left the date in.
Oh yeah.
But it is. There's the Great Pyramid, which is remarkably intact. But it'll make sense. It might make sense.
It might.
Why Giza, Paris, New York, and presumably London were in the same place. But no, Russell was giving a lot of things like the next season will be sooner than you expect because we are a little earlier than the last season. And we're like, dude, it's April 12th. Like we're pretty sure. And then it turns out it was. So it's like, and I'm like, oh yeah, it turns out sooner than we thought was. I don't know how they sussed that out. I didn't read the spoilers. But yeah, I don't think there's anything I want to talk about spoiler wise. Because I think that's just a disservice to you. But yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah, I don't know any spoilers.
Anything else to say about this episode before we start talking about the other ones? Like the rest of the future of the season.
Not really. No.
Well, and I want to say, Caden, we've been doing our watch-alongs, and I have really started enjoying introducing the episodes, right? Let me just make sure my list of... I've really enjoyed introducing them and like getting to tell you about the plot of the episode. I think it's good structurally. It's good that we all start informed about what the episodes are going to be, right? And I realized, I wouldn't be able to do that with the new show. Because I don't know what the episode is, of course. I can't just make something up. So what I've done is secretly, over the past year, I've managed to infiltrate the BBC, the British government. I'm in Disney. I'm in Bad Wolf. I've got people. They'll remain unnamed, of course.
Yeah.
I've got people, Rick, he's the best one, who have gotten the episodes synopsis for me. I don't think they were any of the leakers. Other people do this, of course. I'm also realizing, that's Joy to the World got 6 million views on Wikipedia. Don't bother why I asked that open, but I've got the list and the plots,
right?
All the episodes in front of me, right? So I can reveal officially the next episode is Lux. Lux. A lot of people have noticed that's the last name of the guy who owned the library planet from Science of the Library, but that's just coincidence. Yeah. Lux, also a unit of light intensity.
It's also flux.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the one. Because you remember, we recently had Flux with the 13th Doctor that destroyed all the universe, then none of it, then we've decided half of it. And this is basically an episode that's finally putting to rest the confusion, right? And we've settled on a quarter. And because Flux was so devastating and destructive, right? It's actually destroyed one of the letters in Flux. Now it's the Lux. It's destroyed the as well. It's Lux, not even the Lux.
Of course.
And
it destroyed a quarter of it.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be about. Now, this was a little early on, it was an active production. There might be some subtle rewrites of things, but that's what the episode's going to be about. And
wow.
I don't know, I'm a little worried with Flux. What do you think?
That's really, next week's going to be a big week.
Yeah, no, it's loads of revelations. Everything will change, right?
Things are coming to a head, yeah.
Yeah. True.
Good work.
They did some rewrites with the Robot Revolution. The spinning robot thing was cut. But I still trust them. I'm paying Robert as well, $5,000 to
Robert. Yeah, the people that won't be named.
Yeah,
getting named back to back.
What? No, I haven't. Why would you think Robert's one of them? He's just a fine guy.
My bad for assuming.
I don't know. Got it. No, yeah. Next you're gonna guess Sarah or something, but anyway, they're good people and they've got me the scripts and I'm paying them a lot, so it's gonna be good info. It's written by Russell T Davies again, directed by Amanda Brochetti, who is directed the one after that as well, but otherwise has no Doctor Who work. And then we'll have a little bit of Russell week 3, but we'll got by Sharma Angel Whalefall, who is one of the new writers. I don't believe they're new to Who. They might have done some Big Finish. I think they're the one who has written a book, This Book is Gay. So I'm looking forward to that one. But I'll tell you about that one. I'll leak the details then. I want to cherish this opportunity. And of course the views for getting the world premiere. Yeah,
that's
I didn't watch the next time on either. So, again, maybe some little rewrites. Well, I did get the first bit while I was scanning for the remote. I have a guess which one it is, of course, because my people sent me the script. Remember, I do know one of the villains they've announced. I think it's the one they've announced.
I didn't know they announced.
Who has a fantastic name. Yes, and I know the villain because it was with the announcement of the release date and time. And I didn't know it was going to contain Alan Cummings' part. But, it's about the Flux or whatever I said, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Shout out to Amanda for getting that script, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a good person.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. No, we can't wrap up. We can't wrap up.
Can't wrap up.
Yeah, we've got to read Time Worm now. I hope you're in it for the long haul. No, bam. Right. Robot, right? See? Look.
Wow, you've already got it set up. That's
look,
very nice.
Lux. Bam.
Yeah.
What did I tell
There
you?
it is.
Yep. I've got them. They're all here. You don't know. So
Wow.
we did Joy of the World. Alex gave it a 4 out of 10. I remember that.
Wow.
Caden, as I get IMDb up, what do you think?
I said it at the start of the
And
stream.
I can show you season 1 if you want to, but yes, go on.
I'm gonna stick with 6.
6.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it.
Now I want to double check. Rogue, I think I gave Rogue a 4. Ooh, I was generous.
You really. That was
I gave Space Babies a 5. It's worse than Space Babies, but it's better than Rogue, which I thought I gave a 3. I think that means I might have to go a 4.5. If it was middle of the season, we had a better Belinda, I probably would have ranked it higher, because I know the issues aren't there, you know, with the quippiness and stuff. Where's my chat gone? Let me pop out my chat. But as it is, you know, that was I'm concerned with a companion. And I said before, I don't think I can give this like the 5 we did with Space Babies. Like, this is the most okay-ish. I think this is below the most okay-ish episode. This is an average of like probably 5.3. I'm a girl. I'm bad at maths. So that joke sounded better in my head is a reference. IMDb.
Curious about IMDb.
It's interesting. What do you think? Just as a reference, this was what they were, I think, after some time. Weren't we gonna look up if these changed? I think we might have, but let's just stick with these.
I think IMDb's gonna be high 6 to low 7. Banking on low 7.
Yes. It's not the worst ranked. Oh, I didn't see Space Babies as well. It's definitely not the worst ranked episode. It's the bottom 4. It is a nice 6.9.
Nice.
Specifically, looking at the distribution, a lot of 7 and 8. So, you know, middling episode. There's a little jump at 10. I can put this on stream. Little jump at 10. Of course, there's a thing at 1. I'm actually curious. I expect that's a lot of racists. But maybe it's just like, I can absolutely see, aimed at very young children, script about misogyny, preachy. I think preachy's fair. In fact, is this the only? Oh, this is the only one with a 1.
Yeah.
Shruti Gadwa crying, a lot of the common low things. But yeah, it's 8 is interesting. But again, this is where like the community seems to be. I think they had low standards going in for a Russell T Davies opening. It's very of this era. I have a feeling though, and I'll say this: if this came out in the Chibnall era, right? It would definitely be bad. It'd be like Kerblam, I think. It'd be one of the better ones, but bad. It definitely would be bad. I think we'd be harder if it was in the Chibnall era. I think there's might be. I don't know if there's pro Russell bias. That might be more pro anti Chibnall, because the fandom is kind of turned on Russell. They wouldn't say he's bad, but definitely the consensus is bringing him back was a mistake, and this show needs new blood. That's kind of the consensus. But I was so surprised because so much of what the fandom I've heard complain about Russell, the fact that Belinda, I didn't do this before the stream, calling her Monday, that Belinda wasn't really grounded. You know, where people do seem to accept like it wasn't great, but they were kind of like, you know, it's a Russell T Davies opener. Maybe they just have such low expectations of him now. That seems unfair. Because people are still like, he's not bad. I think he's worse than he was in his first 4 runs. Like, if this was in season 2, it would have been like with Fear Her and Love and Monsters, which people don't really like, especially Fear Her.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I think this is my first Fear Her. The episode that's, like, just not good. In what's hopefully an otherwise good season. I have hopes. Actually, God, if I'm telling you the concepts, do you want to actually go over the list of reviews? Or do you want the episode titles? Or do you want to get them one by one? Because there's some interesting concepts.
I think I'll slow burn those.
Ah, man. So it's going to be I'm going to have to wait till, like, 4 weeks from now to talk about the one I really want to talk about.
That'll make it exciting.
If you want to look up the list, it's episode 6, unsurprisingly, is the one I'm most and least excited about simultaneously.
Most and least.
Most and least. It's got a lot of potential, and I think Russell T Davies is the kind of writer who's not going to realize it, but it's not written by Russell. I forgot. That's the one written by the musician? Juno Dawson, no. Young adult fiction and nonfiction. Oh, no, this is the one who wrote This Book is Gay. It might be good. Maybe it'll be, oh. Also, how is there a musician writing one of these episodes and it's not that one? Yeah. I've just realized Discord changes when it's like, these are the people in the call, depending on what monitor I've clicked on. Huh. Well, anyway, I think we might have wrapped it up. I put 6.9 in there, so once again, actually Alex is the most pessimistic, technically.
Wow.
7.9 on Joy to the World. I can't remember why I didn't like that. Yeah, the statistics aren't too interesting at the moment because it's so few.
Yeah.
We're all kind of in agreement. 6, 7, 6.2. IMDb is 7. It likes it more than we did.
Yeah.
Which is weird because we all liked Joy to the World more than IMDb. 4.5. I feel harsh now. I don't know why we do this. Why do we do this, Caden?
I don't know.
I don't just realize these averages are wrong because they're like dividing by 8 episodes even though we've done 2. Yeah, every time I complain about these, but I'm never going to stop doing them.
That's the spirit.
So I guess for me, this was the second worst episode? I gave Empire of Death a 7.5.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, second worst.
Davies in.
Oh, I like the stuff with Ruby's mom, actually. I did. I don't know. That feels high. It's probably I probably win. It's worse than 73 yards, but better than Church? Good Lord, what was I smoking? Why do we do this, Caden? This is a lesson in, like, you know, when you record these reviews, your opinions change. And like, what the hell was I thinking? This is just realizing what the hell was I thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
Or have I been twisted by the fandom talking about how bad it was? Because I don't remember it being good. You know what? I've just done what I've blamed the fandom for doing. I went in knowing it was a Russell T Davies finale and expected nothing.
Yeah, that might have been.
And so when it delivered anything. Yeah. No, I'd say second worst, and I am happy. Yes, I didn't like Rogue, if you didn't see the past reviews. I'm happy with second worst. Because all the individual episodes last season were real strong, except Rogue and the finale.
Just about, yeah.
Which we've been constantly saying. We gave it an 8 out of 10 the season. Everyone, literally me, and Alex all gave it an 8 out of 10. And I think that is absolutely fair. We'll see. I don't know if this season will fix a lot of the problems with season 1, but if it's got solid stories, it's still pretty close to an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's time to wrap up and forget that thing we were going to talk about, you know? Next week, there will be Doctor Who. Caden, I think maybe you should come over here, get a good mic, but this did work. That's Easter Sunday. We'll be there at noon, Pacific Standard Time, so about 38 minutes from right now, plus a week. We'll be doing Lux. The plan is to do all of them. Notably, the finale falls on Lilac City Comic Con, as well as a trade show my wife and I like to go on. That one we might move to like Monday. It would be the finale. But otherwise, I'm free. I should be able to do all of these unless I get sick. Caden, you will be here as often as you can, but I think you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't getting hyped for this Doctor Who. But now that it's here, I'm definitely looking forward to watching it.
I'm excited.
Hopefully, we have many more years to come, and hopefully the Miss Flood rumors are false, and hopefully the rampant speculation about the death of Doctor Who is false.
Fingers crossed.
There's some oddities, but I really don't want to talk about speculation like that for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I will say thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
2.5 hours.